For those of you listening over Apple and Spotify, Jason is dressed up as Ozzy Osbourne.
Crazy! But that's how it goes. Millions of people living as foes. Mental wounds not healing. Life's a bitter shame. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Yes, that is the story of last night's basketball games. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Caitlin Clark got me on a crazy train. That made no sense last night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Caitlin Clark, none of it made any sense last night. And that's why I'm sitting here as Ozzy Osbourne on a crazy train, because I don't know what I watched last night. Everything is being recalibrated in my mind. Yesterday, I talked to you about, I came at you from a Morgan Wallen perspective. I'm a little crazy, but the sports world is insane. Caitlin Clark's a little crazy, but the WNBA is insane. Well, now I'm coming at you from the Ozzy Osbourne perspective. Is like the world is on a crazy train. I'm on a crazy train. These guys last night, I'm sitting there, oh man, we got two compelling basketball stories. We got SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Are they the next dynasty? You got the two-time MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, versus Victor Wembanyama, who's, kind of folding up and looks soft and doesn't want to go in the paint. And I watched that Western Conference Finals Game 6, and I was like, what is this? What's going on with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? This guy's laying down. He is completely off. He's being unmasked. And so part of it I'm watching like, okay, they just won a Game 7, and so they told Shai, hey, remember what Wembanyama did in Game 5? We need you to do that in Game 6. And so that's part of what I think. But what I really think is like all of us, me, Shai, Caitlin Clark, we're all on the crazy train because, the Western Conference Finals Game 6 was my appetizer. Y'all know I've lost my mind and I'm a WNBA Caitlin Clark nut. And so I get to the main course. The Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, they travel out to California to take on the Golden State Valkyrie. And it's supposed to be this incredible rematch from just 4 or 5 days ago. Caitlin Clark versus Golden State and Tiffany Hayes. They're talking smack back and forth to each other. Tiffany Hayes, at some point during this game last night, I was like, is she hurt? Did she get suspended? Is she playing? She played 5 minutes last night, was in foul trouble throughout the first half, and was no factor. But Golden State still beat Indiana 90-88, and Caitlin Clark had the most troubling, pathetic, impotent game I've ever seen. And so this game wraps up because the WNBA and their officiating crew and their replay reviews, it all takes way too long. And so that game probably wrapped up around 11:15, 11:20 or whatever. And then I tossed and turned, like, what did I just watch? What is going on with Caitlin Clark? 3 of 12, I believe, from the field. 5 turnovers. Just ridiculous tantrums. And what did I just watch? She was a non-factor. Here's the worst part. They put her in an ISO blender like she was James Harden. And it was one of the most troubling things I've ever seen. And the broadcast crew did mention it, but they didn't belabor it. They just mentioned it. But anybody watching that game, it was like they've turned Caitlin Clark into James Harden. She's a cone on defense, and some woman. You remember a week ago when they played Golden State, and I was like, hey, I've never heard of Tiffany Hayes. Who is she? And last night, there's some girl named Burton who just kept cooking Caitlin Clark. And I was like, who is Burton? What is going on here? The Golden State guards are I got to be careful here. I can't. There were analogies that I was going to use that are inappropriate. But crazy train. It was like they were running a crazy train on Caitlin Clark. Everybody just taking turns. Hey, I got her next time. I'm going to go one-on-one against her and cook her next time. And Caitlin Clark got so frustrated and it was so obvious what they were doing that Golden State came into the game like, oh, okay, Caitlin Clark wants to talk smack. We will devise an offensive strategy that will put her on an island defensively, and we will just embarrass her throughout this entire game. And I'm sitting like, my whole world is being destroyed. Caitlin Clark is my sports dessert during the summer. It gets me through until football season. And I'm watching her get unmasked the same way that people are saying Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is getting unmasked. They're like, hey, Shai, you're not in the Kobe conversation. You're not in any of these conversations. You're actually a version of Steve Nash, a two-time MVP that no one considers an all-time great. I have a lot of respect for Steve Nash. But two-time MVP, and most people are like, hey, put an asterisk by him, stole those from Shaq and Kobe. And I think that's what's about to happen to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I was all on board with Shai, like, hey, man, I'm halfway defending him, blah, blah. But he disappears. And I read something very interesting this morning from Ethan Strauss. Do you guys know the House of Strauss? Ethan Strauss is one of the best guys commentating on sports, but particularly the NBA. Used to work for ESPN. He's from out in the Bay Area. But he wrote something this morning about a friend of his named Adam Harris, I think is the guy's name, and his theory that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and this guy said this a couple of games ago, that when A.J. Mitchell got hurt and Jalen Williams is compromised physically, and so not the same Jalen Williams we've seen previously, this hamstring injury, lingering hamstring injury, has exposed Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He doesn't have the full complement of players and the roster and all the different options. And so he's not a real superstar. He's not Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or maybe even a Reggie Miller. That's like, hey, man, I'll figure this out. I'll still be the same guy. And Adam Harris is like, hey, they've taken away his options. And now we'll find out if he's a real superstar. And we're finding out he's not. This is a guy that went like 120 straight regular season games, maybe 140 regular season games, scoring 20 points or more. And now in 2 of the last 3 games, he hasn't cracked 20 points. And you can say, oh, well, you know, A.J. Mitchell's not there and Jalen Williams is compromised. Well, okay. Do you think if Scottie Pippen wasn't there and Horace Grant wasn't there, you think Michael Jordan would struggle to crack 20 points? You think Kobe Bryant, without Shaq and Derek Fisher or Shaq and Robert Orr, you think Kobe wouldn't figure out a way to score more than 20 points? And so all the people like Skapinac, and we'll have Jay on here shortly, that were like, hey, man, Nikola Jokic is the MVP. They got to be sticking their chest out right now because, and I get it. It's only 2 games, but this guy's getting exposed. And last night, my girl, my everything, She got exposed. And I know that's tough for a lot of you to hear. Because the Caitlyn cult is crazy. And I'm a part of the Caitlyn cult. But I'm not crazy as it relates to when Caitlyn Clark puts up a stinker last night. You will not see me making content talking about how bad Stephanie White is. When you're dribbling up court and doing too much and trying to go behind your back and between your legs and you fall to the ground and you kick the ball and you have a turnover, when you get to the end of the game in the fourth quarter situation, you get to the end of the game and on critical possessions, you get turned over. You step out of bounds one time and you throw a pass that got tipped and you turn the ball over on back-to-back possessions for virtually no reason. You shoot 3 of 12 or 3 of 13 from the field. And I want to, and this is going to get me into trouble, but Cari Champion, the former ESPN broadcaster, this is how much of the crazy train I'm on. I got to defend Cari Champion today. You know how uncomfortable that is for me? Although Cari is a very attractive lady. But you know how uncomfortable it is for me to have to defend Cari Champion, one of these nut job feminists? But I have to. Her criticism of Caitlyn Clark yesterday that went viral and everybody's going crazy and saying like she's done something inappropriate and her and Jamel Hill, they're racist and blah, blah, blah. No, they're the wrong messenger. But they're authoring, speaking something truthful. Let's play the Cari Champion clip.
But the more we get to catch these glimpses of Caitlyn Clark, I'm like, ooh, I don't like you. I don't like how you behave on the court. And the league is positioning you to be its superstar because you are. And with leadership comes certain responsibility. And if you don't want that responsibility, I understand that. But the way that you behave, this entitlement that you behave, the way that you were talking to your coaches you and Sophie, you enjoy that, right? So if that's what you enjoy, if you want to be the villain, if you want to be the tough person, and I'm not even going to compare you to guys in the NBA, if that's what you two decide to do, or if that's what you specifically, Caitlyn, decide to do, then let it be, because we're coming at you just the same way we would come at anybody else. And our fans need to recognize that.
I don't have a problem with that comment. Here's the problem I have with what Cari Champion said, and I'm about to explain like why she's right. But keep that same energy when it comes to Angel Reese and a lot of these black feminist queens in the WNBA, because they're just as crazy. And what Cari Champion is speaking against is the Caitlyn cult, which I'm a part of. And I know many of you think I'm a sellout and you're upset that I'm saying this. But Caitlyn Clark behaves poorly on the court. I want to show you last night when I knew. This is when I knew. This is in the first quarter. I think maybe 4 minutes left in the first quarter. And that's when I was like, oh, Houston, there's a problem tonight. Caitlyn Clark's mental issues. And I'm sympathetic, but she clearly has some mental issues. Did you see it? It's just a little small thing. But I want you to look at it. Looks at the ref, yells at him. That's crazy. She tried to draw a foul. There was no foul. And then you turn to the refs and yell and scream at them like they've done something wrong. This has been going on her entire career in the WNBA, and it was there in college. If you remember, her daddy had to tell her, hey, shut up. And cut it out. This has been going on since college. And this is what Cari Champion is pointing out. And I've been pointing it out. Her dad's been pointing it out. People that care about her have been pointing it out. And this is why we have to come to grips with, hey, man, she's somewhere on the spectrum. She has acknowledged that she has some mental issues as it relates to injuries, and anybody that watched her realized she got some self-control issues. We may end up at some point having a Caitlyn Clark fatigue video. that was like, hey, Kate, love you to death, but control yourself. Find a better way to channel your energy. And I am sympathetic. I do think this is a mental health issue. But I also think it's a reflection of the overall culture we have going on in America and in sports, where mental health is everything and the players are soft. There are no stiff upper lip men left in America, and we already know women aren't stiff upper lip people, and so they want to talk about and go through, women, white women in particular, and if black women were smart, they'd be getting just as much therapy as white women. If they was, instead of self-medicating with marijuana and weed, they do like white women and get these these anxiety pills or whatever. Everybody's souped up on some type of medicine trying to control their emotions and trying to get their mental health stable. And now the men are the same way. And so when I look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this is how I connect all this. This is all connected to mental health. And we're all on a crazy train. And the solution is we would be less crazy if we hadn't abandoned a biblical worldview. But because we've abandoned that and we all want to make ourselves our own gods, and so we got to figure out everything rather than accepting what's written in the owner's manual. The owner of us wrote a manual that explains us. It's called the Bible. Everybody's leaned out of it. Everybody's their own God. And so they run around trying to fix themselves rather than surrender. And so that's how you create mental midgets. And so that's why when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or even Victor Wembanyama, when they run into trouble, I believe they're more likely to fold and quit than the previous generation. They're not built like Michael Jordan. We're far less likely to ever see another flu game in the history of the NBA because men like Michael Jordan don't exist anymore. We're far less likely to see Magic Johnson 42, 15, and 7. It's like, oh, Kareem is out? I'll play all 5 positions. I'll figure it out. Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, arguably one of the 2 or 3 greatest players in the history of the NBA, he sits out and Magic Johnson as a rookie says, nah, I got this. I'll play all 5. In this generation, Kareem sits down. I mean, you got Jalen Williams and A.J. Mitchell out, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still has the deepest team maybe in the history of the NBA, and he can't figure it out. He's folding up. These guys get hit in the mouth in the first, second quarter, and it's like, we'll get him next time. There is an example, and we'll get into this with Skap and Dre. There is an example of an American-born player, Jalen Brunson. He's got a little of that old school in him. And that's why the New York Knicks, to my shock and surprise, I watched last night, and I'm like, you know what? The Knicks may beat San Antonio or OKC. Because Jalen Brunson seems to be built a little different. And so when they're down 20 points in the fourth quarter to the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's like, we still got this. And then, I mean, this morning when I just started thinking about it, and I had my guys on my team helping me think this through, like, what did I watch last night? What was that? And I started thinking about Jalen Brunson, and I started thinking about, like, hey, this guy went full Tom Brady, and in 2024, instead of taking a max contract, he's like, nah, man, keep that $113 million. I'll take less. Build me a roster that I can win with. And then when my next contract comes up, remember what I just did here for us to win a championship and be competitive. And so Jalen Brunson may be our last hope to restore some masculinity to sports, because all the rest of these people seem mentally weak to me. I kind of stumbled into this theme here the week, but I'm really starting to like it. That this whole thing, we're all on a crazy train. This is all mental. It's all mental weakness. And we're mentally weak because our foundation is no longer strong. And our foundation was a biblical worldview that we have abandoned. And so when you abandon a biblical worldview, and then you're left to your own devices, and you can't, the owner's manual is incomplete. It's on Jason Whitlock and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Caitlin Clark and whoever my therapist is and the team therapist it's theirs. They'll help me figure it out. Weak, incomplete. The answers are already out there. We're doing way too much thinking on our own, and that's why we're not producing the kind of champions. Because my final point here, before I bring Dre and Skap into the conversation, is that sports used to be about heart. How much heart do you have? We're going to expose your heart. And it was about exposing the heart because, again, when I was growing up and in the generations before, it's like our minds were more right because we all had a reverence for God and a biblical worldview. And so our minds were more solid. I'm not saying that certainly weren't perfect. We're all flawed, but they were more solid. And our hearts needed to be tested. Now, we're all heart and our minds are scrambled, and it's what's between the ears is what gets exposed during these sports competitions now. We already know the heart is soft. Now we're finding out the minds are soft. And we have, without medication, without some therapist to tell us what to do or think, we don't know what to do. And when stressful things happen, we lose it. We fall apart. And Cari Champion, wrong messenger, because she's not a good person and she's a racial idolater and she won't apply what she just said about Caitlin Clark. She won't apply it to Angel Reese and some of these black players. They got the exact same issues. Unfortunately, I watch the WNBA and I see the craziness everywhere. And I see the mentally weak people. I see people like Angel Reese who's made no progress and plays a very dumb brand of basketball. Always trying to force her offense when she has no offensive skills. But Cari Champion won't touch that because there's some blowback and danger to that. But this problem is pervasive. Anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest, and I'm now looking forward to the NBA Finals with the New York Knicks. I'll now be rooting for Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks. I think they represent something that we've lost in sports. And last night, you guys saw yesterday how excited I was. Hey, man, we got some Wimbyamba as an appetizer. We got some SGA as an appetizer. It's like calamari and a shrimp cocktail. And I love a double dip on the appetizer. And then I'm going to get a bone-in filet when Caitlin Clark takes the court against Golden State, and her and this Tiffany Hayes are going to go at. And then I watched Caitlin Clark play one of the worst games I've ever seen her play. And I've watched people go to blaming Stephanie White, and I'm sure they're blaming Kelsey Mitchell, and I know they're blaming Aaliyah Boston. They're blaming everybody but the leader and the superstar who had a horrendous game. taken apart on the defensive end. Couldn't consistently do anything offensively. Horrible turnovers in the fourth quarter at crunch time. And then I turn on Twitter or I hop on Twitter X and start looking at videos. And how come Stephanie White didn't let Caitlin Clark take the last shot? Because she was horrible last night. That's why. Anyway, if you're listening over Apple and Spotify, 5-star rating. If you're watching over YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. Who does it better than we do? Nobody does it better than we do. Name me a black man that could dress up as Ozzy Osbourne and pull it off the way that I just did and connect the dots on the crazy train that we're all riding on. We deserve that 5-star rating. We deserve for you to hit that subscribe, notifications, and more than anything, you got to support the people that are supporting us. And I'm so glad to welcome back Home Title Lock as a sponsor of this show. Home Title Lock is a service that I have been using. I'm not saying this to floss myself, but I own 3 homes, and I'm not the most organized person in the world. And I'm someone that, is capable of losing my title or having my title compromised. And Home Title Lock assists in protecting me. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud on the rise called title theft, and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on a single document, use a fake notary stamp, and file it with the county. And just like that, on record, they own your home. Using your ownership, they can take out loans against your equity or even sell your property, and you won't know about it until foreclosure or collection notices show up in the mail. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can protect your equity and find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code FEARLESS at HometitleLock.com and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title records, urgent alerts to any charges, and if fraud occurs, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix it. HometitleLock.com. Protect yourself like I did. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. That's HometitleLock.com. Promo code FEARLESS, or use the link below. You see that link below me? Yeah, use that. All right, when we come back, Dre and Skap. Next.
ESPN sucks. Throughout my career as a beat writer, I broke numerous stories. That's what ultimately propelled me to television. You have to find the soft spots and you squeeze. That's journalism.
Cheryl Miller, please step up to the front. That's a Hall of Famer if I've ever seen one, ladies and gentlemen. Didn't know what you were going. Still figuring it out. Sense of direction. That's okay. I look good.
But Stephen A's on there, and Stephen A says, join me on Wednesdays with Mad Dog. Oh. Did you know you did that commercial?
Didn't.
Oh, I love you so much.
Oh, my goodness.
If I'm Arch Manning, pardon me, and we all know this is going to be a conversation given the family's history with, Eli Manning, crazy enough to say, I think I want to play for the Cleveland Browns.
And that's why
ESPN sucks.
Skap, Dre, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, minus 28 last night, plus minus. Lowest for an MVP in a series clinching game since 1997. The guy's gone 140 straight games with 20 points or more in the regular season. 2 of the last 3 games, including last night, less than 20 points. In 6 games during the Western Conference Finals, he's shooting 37.9% from the field, 26.1% from three-point range, 96% from the free throw line, and he shot 54 free throws. The Ethan Strauss theory that he passed on from Adam Morris, that like the absence of Jalen Williams and the absence of A.J. Mitchell, and Skap, you may have been making this point earlier this week or throughout this week that this would be problematic. And it's like, he's not Kobe, he's not Michael Jordan, it's Skap, I know you believe this, he's not Nikola Jokic, he's not someone that without the full complement of other weapons that make him great, he can't just figure it out on his own. He's not a true all-time great superstar. There's a problem with SGA. Skap?
100%, Jason. There's also a problem with what the hell you're wearing right now. Jason, look, I hate to break it to you. We're still looking for a black man that can pull off an Ozzy Osbourne outfit because it sure as hell ain't you right now.
Can we put a picture of Ozzy Osbourne up, Luke? Not that one. One where he looks like me, or I look like him. That's like him in his younger days. That's young Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah.
You need a 60-year-old.
Luke calls himself an Ozzy Osbourne expert, and I call for a picture, and he goes, well, let me pull up something from 1975.
You need him off the MTV version.
Yeah.
Jason,
go
I hate
ahead,
to break it to you,
yeah.
but if we're waiting on Luke to find a picture where you look like Ozzy Osbourne, we're going to be here till the end of time.
We were looking at him this morning. Did you not hear me playing the guitar like Ozzy Osbourne? Did you not hear? Or something, anyway. Go ahead, Skap.
To your point about SGA, look, I've been saying these things about SGA for 2 years. Like, I am not surprised in the least. And do you remember my full passion defense of Victor Wembanyama like 48 hours ago against you? You will get no such spirited defense of the fraud MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was walking around with 2 trophies on his case, of which he deserves absolutely neither one of them. We massacred Nikola Jokic, crushed him for a series earlier in these playoffs where he was playing Rudy Gobert, who, by the way, was first-team All-NBA defense this year. And by the way, Rudy Gobert has more first-team defensive selections now than every human being ever to play basketball, not named Kobe, Jordan, Kevin Garnett, and Gary Payton. That's it. That's the list. So, and by the way, 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, which is also more or as many as any player who has ever existed in NBA history. Against that guy, Nikola Jokic went 26 points, 13 rebounds, 9.5 assists on 46. We crushed him. Now, Jason, we have the league MVP in the conference championship round. Shooting 37% from the field. He shot 55% from the regular season. All I heard about was, oh my gosh, he's the most efficient guard in NBA history. Oh, he's way better than that inefficient ball chucker Kobe Bryant. 55% shooting, 31 points per game for the league MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. How's that working now? In the overall playoffs, Jason, where he could feast in the first 2 rounds against the Suns and the Lakers, he's still down to 45%. 10 percentage point dip from the regular season to the overall playoffs. And now in these conference finals, 37% in 6 games. He shot over 50% only 1 time in 6 games. An absolute vanishing act by a guy who is completely fraudulent in terms of his historical hierarchy and rankings at this point. We mentioned it when he won the MVP. I just want to reaffirm it. He's the 14th guy to go back-to-back league MVPs. Omit Steve Nash, who again stole MVPs that he shouldn't have. So omit him. The other 12 dudes are all top 15 all-time players. So if you're saying 12 guys are top 15 all-time, then a fraud outlier in Steve Nash, who doesn't belong in the top 15 list, well, you would say that the glaring overall probability should be that Shai should be trending towards a top 15 all-time player. And the damnable thing about it all is his team still has a great shot to go win game 7. They're the better team. They're at home. They're likely going to win that game anyway. And people are just going to completely gloss over this. If he then goes on and wins another lackluster, subpar 7th game in the NBA Finals, everyone's going to be, oh yeah, we're back on. The Kobe Shaq or the Kobe Jordan comps are back on, like just because his team carried him to the finish line. That's why we need context on these things. And to me, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been completely and totally exposed throughout the course of these playoffs.
Scap, I would give you the opportunity to drag LeBron James into this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to very quickly here, though, Scap, because I want to get to Dre's thoughts. But as you were unpacking that, I started thinking, well, who is the comp? And he's like the next iteration of Rip Hamilton, a far better Rip Hamilton than Rip Hamilton. And if you remember, Rip Hamilton, they had a chance, Detroit, to win a couple of championships. Very good player. But that might be like, I'm not calling him Rip Hamilton. He's better than Richard Hamilton. But just the higher end version of Rip Hamilton rather than a challenger to Kobe's throne. Which is,
and the other guy is Dwayne Wade that everyone's like, oh yeah, he's just past Dwayne Wade already. Not even close.
Yeah.
Like if you watch Dwayne Wade before LeBron got there and then that championship run with Shaq, that is way better than any level Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has ever reached. And like Shai is going to be 28 this summer. So it's not like he's still ascending or whatever. And he's a top 3 to 5 player in the NBA today. All right, I don't want to overdo the slander or whatever. But if we're talking from a historical standpoint, like I don't care. Yes, he's the lead dog on probably more championships than Wade. Yes, he has 2 league MVPs. Wade never got one. But if you look at Dwayne Wade, the product, the tangible encore product, he's substantially better than this peak version that we've seen now of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So, look, he's closer to Rip Hamilton than he is to Dwayne Wade, in my estimation.
Great. Dre, your thoughts, and I'll have a follow-up for you.
Let me borrow a phrase from one of my favorite sports writers of all time by the name of Bill Simmons, and ask both of you to drink a tall glass of settle down juice when it comes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. First of all, let's make sure we delineate between awards and trophies. Awards are given out by subjective opinion. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA. That's based on voting and how people feel about you. Trophies are given out for outcomes, judged by the inanimate object known as a scoreboard, which has no personal opinion. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did not campaign for an MVP award like James Harden, Joel Embiid, and others. He didn't ask for the MVP. He was awarded the MVP. What he does is go out and play the games on the court, and his team has won. He has a very good team around him. He has a very deep team around him. Is he Kobe Bryant? No, he is not Kobe Bryant. Is he up to the level of Dwayne Wade? He is not up to the level of Dwayne Wade. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I never heard him say Dwayne Wade or Kobe's name in comparison to himself. I never heard him say, I should win MVP. I never heard him campaign for anything. All he does is go out and play the games. Everybody else is talking about the foul merchant and the free throws and the flopping and is he MVP? Is he not MVP? I know this is Talk TV, so we had to discuss it, but let's not put this on him because he didn't ask for any of this attention. And speaking of context, let's give some context. I'm going to give you the shooting numbers of a player that you all know in 3 straight games in the NBA playoffs, deep in the playoffs, and you tell me if you can tell me who this player is. Game 1, 12 for 27. There's 3 separate games in a row, but not necessarily game 1. It was game 5, 12 for 27. Game 6, 9 for 26. Game 7, game 4, 12 for 27. Game 5, 9 for 26. Game 6, 15 for 35. This person was below 45% all 3 games, never close to 50%. Anybody know who that was?
Kobe? Yeah, I'm guessing that was 1998 Finals, Michael Jordan.
Exactly. And they won those 3 games by a combined 1 point. They won game 4 by 4. They lost game 5 by 2, and they won game 6 by 1 point. Michael Jordan, in those 3 games combined, was a combined -2 in plus minus in those 3 games that the Bulls won, where they won that 6th championship. When you put things into context, there's a book out there called How to Lie with Statistics. You can easily make up any story you want if you pick the right statistics on the right person in the right situation. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, his team is playing well enough that they had the best record in the league. That's why he got the MVP. He has a deep roster around him, and two of the players that he's been used to playing with, Mitchell and Williams, are out hobbled. They are still 3-3, and they still have home court advantage for a game 7. The Spurs are a very good defensive team. They're playing him very physically in many ways, whether with the whistle or without the whistle. And this is just part of how it goes when you're the star player on another team. You're going to get all the negative attention when you lose, and you're going to get usually positive attention when you win. He hasn't even gotten that. And again, this is because people are not delineating between an award and a trophy. Again, this was James Harden. I would pile on with you two and trash the guy because James Harden asked for an award. Joel Embiid asked for an award. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't ask for anything. He just goes out there and plays. And from last year to this year, he's been beating everybody. And until he gets beat in game 7, I can't trash the guy.
Dre, look, I have to add some, because you want to add context or whatever. Let's add context to what you talked about with the Michael Jordan numbers, because as you know, I knew immediately who you were talking about. Michael
Game
Jordan
6 gave it away.
In a 1998, in the Lord's year of 98, where league-wide average NBA scoring was in the mid-90s and probably the low 90s in the NBA playoffs, where his really only other offensive contributor, Scottie Pippen, was being dragged on and off the court with back spasms and stuff throughout the entirety of that, the last part of that series. Michael Jordan was it. He scored over 50% of his team's points in that game 6, where he, made the quick layup, stole the ball from Karl Malone, came down, hit the game-winning shot. Michael Jordan was still the alpha, the principal. If you just never watched basketball in your entire life and watched the 1998 series, you still saw a guy in Michael Jordan who was the best player by far, the lead guy, the reason. And it was a different NBA, different defense, shooting percentages, true shooting percentages, completely down. Again, it was nearly 20 points lower that year in points per game league-wide than it is this year. 116 this year on average. The highest since the mid-1960s in terms of shooting and scoring and pace and in true shooting. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a product of this era and the efficiency of it. So,
Exactly.
is it natural that he takes a little bit of a dip in the playoffs? Yes. But a little bit of a dip, Dre, and from 55% to 37% in this round, that's a pretty big difference. Also, my final point, if you watch this series and you don't know anything about basketball, you're not coming away saying, oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best player here. This is a great player. Where in 98 with Michael Jordan, you absolutely were coming away feeling that way from watching that series that you highlighted where he wasn't shooting the best splits necessarily. And just one more on the plus minus. Minus 20, you saying Jordan's -2 in those games? Shai is his on-offs right now through the entire NBA playoffs are -18. They're 17 points worse overall defensively when he's on the floor. And that is their big advantage, their team defense. He is unequivocally detracting from that. So, while you're right about Shai not being an insufferable narcissist and begging for the award, and I'll grant you that point, we still unfortunately have to discuss him as such in the historical context of what these awards are lifting him to, what levels. And you have to fight against that narrative, or else in another 15, 20 years, kids that are 20, 25 years old are going to be running around on X saying, oh, Shai is better than Kobe Bryant. The fight starts now on the front lines to put this guy in the proper historical context.
Interesting that you say that. Speaking of Kobe Bryant, was he not the guy who was a -52, who shot 38% in a 5-game shellacking to the Detroit Pistons in 2004?
100. And look, I'm not saying that Kobe Bryant was perfect. No player is, Dre, in NBA history other than the great Michael Jordan, of course, which is why he is the unequivocal GOAT. But say what you will, Kobe Bryant still, Phil Jackson wrote a book trashing Kobe Bryant after that series. And even still, Phil Jackson would admit, the only guy in the locker room that still felt we could win the series by game 5 was Kobe Bryant. That dude never gave up. He persisted. He always found a way. And I think He's a much more adept scorer from all levels than Shai Gilgeous. Despite what the true shooting looks like or whatever, Kobe Bryant, again, played in that inefficient era where true shooting, it was just the dead ball era of offensive basketball. And Kobe Bryant was an elite impactor on defense as well, particularly in those young years. Again, SGA is hurt. He's undeniably destroying the defense when he's on the floor, and that's the strength of the Thunder's team.
I agree that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not Kobe, nor is he Michael Jordan. And again, this is the reason why I started
Dwayne Wade.
Or Dwayne Wade is the reason why I start talking about saying Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not an apex predator scorer. Those guys are all apex predators. You build your offense around them. Everything breaks down. Just give them the ball. Everybody get the hell out the way. You can do it for an entire game, even in the playoffs. Shai has never been that type of player, but he's never billed himself as that type of player. The fact that he got the MVPs, again, is not his fault. Yes, he's going to be weighed against it, and we're going to talk about it because that's what sports talk is. But he didn't do anything necessarily wrong here. He's not playing so great, but we still have a Game 7 here. They win Game 7. All of this is going to be forgotten. Then they go into the finals where the New York Knicks do have good defenders on the perimeter. I think the Spurs defenders are better than the Knicks. And all of this could be forgotten depending on how he plays in the finals if they win Game 7. If they lose, he's going to get some negative backlash. He's already getting negative backlash. Even if they win, he's going to get negativity because this is just how it is for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I would not make this a pile-on session for SGA, win or lose.
Let me hop back in here and make a small point, Skap, that I want you to comment on. This is going back to Dre's original comment. Dre, did you say that Bill Simmons was your favorite sports columnist?
I did.
Yeah. And so, I'm slightly offended, but I'm also, I would be remiss if I'm not. And so, let me just clarify. You think Bill Simmons was a better sports columnist than me?
Where I put you in a lane, Jason, specifically is that you would mix sports with social commentary, where Bill Simmons mostly stayed in the sports lane and he would talk about white pop culture that I didn't even know what he was referring to. I looked him more as a sports guy. You were more social and sports.
Gotcha. So what my real point here is I'm slightly offended, but my real point is Bill Simmons is my favorite sports columnist, and I've said that for years. And Skap, what's amazing here, I don't know if you and the audience have picked up on all the different things Dre and I have in common. Bill Simmons is my favorite sports columnist. Both Dre and I, elite athletes with professional capabilities. Both of us impeccable dressers. Both of us keep ourselves in incredible shape and in appearance. That the commonality between Dre and I is really starting to, both of us very logical and intelligent. I did not know that I had a double out there, but I actually do. Your comments, Cap.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, I actually, Jason, you can't see it, but I have a little like Post-it note that says Jason, that's Jason in the middle, and then Dre on the outside. Because otherwise, I honestly wouldn't even know. Even though you are cosplayed as a Wayans brothers and White Chicks today, I still probably.
What is what? That's
actually
Michael Jack. There we go. There, you can't tell me. You're gonna say I'm not pulling off that look? Really? I'm not pulling off the Ozzy Osbourne look.
What Jason, is that on your face?
Next time, look, you want to look for a wig in the men's department next time. That's the only drawback.
This is a wig from the men's department. You know what this wig really? It's we asked for a Morgan Wallen hair costume, and this is what they sent. So this is from the men's department. But
what is that on your face, Jason? Is that sunscreen? That's what it looks like to me. It reminds me of sunscreen.
No, it's my natural pigmentation when I'm impersonating Ozzy Osbourne. It's makeup. That really looks like sunscreen.
I'm in Miami, so when I put sunscreen on my face, that's what it looks like.
Oh, all right. Let me go back on a more serious note. What do you all think of my contention that we have a mental midget problem in sports? That like there are no stiff upper lips. That these guys face a little bit of adversity and they got to run to a therapist. They got to do the. And then my contention that Jalen Brunson may be the antithesis of this, and that may be what I've underestimated in the New York Knicks. It's like they deal with some adversity and recover from it. And then when I think about Brunson and the contract he took so that he could actually build a championship team, that's Tom Brady-esque. And am coming away from watching the Spurs and OKC with more respect for Jalen Brunson than actually Wembanyama, and that's not a real pot shot at Wembanyama, but just more respect for Jalen Brunson than Wemby and SGA. Dre, you fire first there.
Well, I think it was a great move by Brunson. Was it, one of you can tell me, was it intentional for him to take less money so that the Knicks had room?
Yes, that is my. He took $113 million less. Now he wants to be rewarded when he re-ups. Like, hey, remember what I did here, James Dolan? But yeah, he did so they could put together a championship roster.
Yeah, so that was a great move by him so that they could get the right players around him. And if the Knicks end up winning a championship, then that's going to become even more of a legend that he did this. At the same time, to answer your bigger question, yes, we do have a stiff upper lip or mental weakness problem, not in the NBA, not in sports, but in society in general. We just have a weak society. And it's always been said, hard times make for strong people make for easy times makes for weak people. We had easy times for a good 20 to 30 years, and that created a weak society. There's a book by Jonathan Haidt. I believe it's called, I can't remember the name of the book. I'll come up with it in a minute. But that book is all about the coddling of this current youth. Let's say people who are under the age of about 35, that they were coddled through their youth by parents who were tougher, but they didn't want their kids to grow up with the same harshness that they grew up with. And that's what got produced. And that's where we are. So that's all of society. And yes, you have people who will whine and complain. I heard you talking about Caitlin Clark earlier. That's one of the things about Clark that would annoy me if I was a teammate. Or you're the star teammate. You complain a little bit too much and you don't play defense and you're yelling at the coaches and teammates and you want the ball all the time. Like, she reminds me of James Harden a little bit, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But overall, to answer your question,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but overall, Jason, it is a societal issue, and it's not something that can necessarily be quote unquote fixed. I think it gets fixed with the current kids who are under the age of 15. They'll be the tougher generation that comes in to replace the current youth generation.
Skap.
Yeah, I mean, agree completely. That's what we've been talking about. At least I've been talking about that theme since I've been on this show with you. Is the pervasive, let's call it, wussification of society. I use a less PG term in other places, but I'll keep it family friendly here. And it's, Jason, it's just this let's not keep score, let's give everybody participation trophies kind of mentality that has weakened and destroyed the very fabric of this entire generation of human being. And it's just sports. It's just a microcosm for the larger issue, which is, as Dre pointed out, 100% a societal issue. It's not that the athletes are weak. It's that everybody in their age bracket, basically by and large, is weak, and they just happen to play sports, right? So to your point, though, on Brunson, he does have a different feel about him, doesn't he? He does have, dare I say it, guys, a little Mamba mentality about him. And I wonder where he was instilled in that. Now, stay with me on this, Jason. Give me a little bit of leash.
When did Kobe Bryant ever take less money?
Just give me a little leash. Give me a little leeway on it.
Go ahead. Bring LeBron into this too while you're at it, but go ahead.
Kobe Bryant's older sister was Jalen Brunson's mom's teammate at Temple on the volleyball team, and they were close friends and roommates. So Kobe Bryant was a mentor of Jalen Brunson from a very, very young age. So I think maybe, Jason, please, I think that that's not a bad thing to bring into the conversation here. And I think that maybe Brunson does have some of that Mamba mentality about him. And also, look, he's an undersized guy who was an unheralded type guy coming into the NBA. So I do think that he just carries that kind of chip. And then he was kind of washed over in his first stint in the NBA with Dallas. So now I think he just carries that thing of, oh, like nobody really wanted me in the NBA. Oh, I wasn't supposed to be a big star. Like, let me show all of you guys. And I think to have that chip on your shoulder can be like profound and impactful, because he hasn't been this guy, this athlete that has been coddled from the first moment of his life, who's told that he's the next great one that's going to make all the money and all that stuff. He's had to earn and outwork people at every level, and he still is that guy. Even now that the money has come, the notoriety, the fame, etc., the success, he's still, though, in the back of his mind is that guy that's trying to prove everybody wrong.
What really bothers me about these modern athletes is that they're all, hey, look at me. They'll do crazy things with their hair. They'll put makeup on. They'll wear sunglasses indoors. I mean, they're just nuts. And that's what really bothers me about the modern athletes. And I don't think you guys caught the joke in that. I caught
Peyton
it. Caught it.
The sunglasses, the makeup. Yeah, I caught it. So
caught it, but it just wasn't any good. So
I think the picture they're showing now, Jason, is way more spot on. And
men have gone way too soft. They've gone way too soft with the hair, the makeup, the sun. They're always trying to draw attention to themselves. And
so Michael Jackson more recognizable than Ozzy Osbourne overall. So that book is The Coddling of the American Mind, Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt. And that book is all about how it starts at the youth, starts at preschool, then it goes K through 12, then the universities is where it gets stamped, because the people who come out of the universities, they're the ones who head up big companies. They're the ones who go into government and they make the laws and they make the rules. But overall, back to what you were talking about when it comes to Jalen Brunson, and you said, hey, look at me, generation. Let's go back to the 1990s. Michael Jordan comes out. He dominates, he sells the shoe. And this is the first guy really in sports where they said, hey, let's put everything behind the person instead of the team. Michael Jordan was the start of that. He became the superstar. He's making all the money. He's winning. He's dominating. So what did everybody in the NBA say? And every other sport said the same thing. Hey, let's catch the next Jordan before they become Jordan. Let's pay them up front. So this is when NBA players started getting these big contracts early. That happened all through the 90s. I remember Glenn Robinson. People went crazy over that. $68 million. They went crazy. Kevin Garnett, $126 million. Shaq, $120 million. They said, our athletes getting paid too much. This is getting out of control. Look at the numbers now. That led to the lockout in 1999 because these players were getting stuff before they earned it. Even Jordan himself came out and said it. I got all my stuff because I earned it on the court first. Then I got paid. These guys are getting paid before they earn it, and then they don't earn it. And it's continued because everybody's trying to get ahead of the curve. Both of you have probably seen on social media, there's been a lot of conversation about the youth sports movement. This is kids between the ages of 5 and in high school, where their parents are getting roped into hiring trainers, paying for travel teams, AAU, and it's costing them $20,000, $30,000 a year. I think Danny Cannell was on your show, Jason, talking about this, how he pays, $25,000 a year for his kid to play volleyball. And why is that? It's because of the competitiveness to get your kid to be somebody, usually to get into a good college, because most of them won't play pro early, and you want to get to it before it happens. Everybody wants to be ahead of the curve, and this is what the sports world is doing, paying people before they earn it. And let's just look at this, Jason and Skat. If you start giving somebody, you give somebody a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of attention, and a whole bunch of followers and tell them that they're it before they've earned it, aren't they going to think that they're it? Aren't they going to believe it? They have the proof. I got a $100 million contract. I got 1 million followers on social media. Everywhere I go, everyone wants to take my picture. If someone criticizes me on Fearless, everybody jumps on their back and trashes them on social media for the next day. What proof do they have that they're not that person after they have all this evidence that they are that person? All right, society is reinforcing the very thing that we're saying it's true, that they do think they're it, but they're being reinforced with it every single day.
Scap, I'll give you the final thought, then I got to let you guys go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it short and simple here, Dre. You're absolutely right. Like, the reason these players aren't working, the reason they don't have the mentality is because they're given way too much at a young age and they didn't have to work for it. So why would they? How would you then, if you're given the world early, like where's the hunger and the drive and the thirst come from then late? It's not there. That's why everybody, all these elite high-level athletes are failing themselves and failing the sport, quite frankly.
Well, I've got to get to a more manly discussion. Then got to talk some WNBA as the WNBA turns. Got to keep this show as masculine as possible. And then Eric Schmitt, the senator from Missouri, is also going to join us to talk about the Senate bill to save college sports. That'll be after I have a very manly conversation about the WNBA with Maurice and Jon. Next. What is Abdul Carter doing to Jackson Dart, QB1 for the New York Giants? And it's pretty obvious. Abdul Carter, like a lot of black people, loves to be the overseer of white people. We want to micromanage and oversee the behavior of white people. We're very comfortable doing that. And so when Jackson Dart introduced Donald Trump,
what an honor, what a privilege it is to be here.
At some rally, press conference, whatever, Abdul Carter was like, oh man, I can clout chase here and I can live out my fantasy of micromanaging and overseeing the behavior of white people and my white teammate.
Kunta Kinte. Damn! Steve! What I say about him so hard, man?
As the WNBA turns, starring Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. Brought to you by George Soros, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the Global Elite.
All right, time to get super masculine here on Fearless and talk a little WNBA in detail. I've already set the table for this conversation with Maurice and Jon the Liquidator. Gentlemen, last night was a major disappointment. I thought that was Caitlin Clark's worst performance. I thought that some of her behavior on the court and attitude and energy on the court kind of backed up what Cari Champion was saying about her. Cari Champion's not the right messenger. She's got a racial idolatry issue, and she can't stand Caitlin Clark, and she'd never hold a black NBA player to the same standard. But I do think Cari Champion isn't all wrong here. Let's play SOT 6 over again, and then you guys can jump in.
But the more we get to catch these glimpses of Caitlin Clark, I'm like, ooh, I don't like you. I don't like how you behave on the court. And the league is positioning you to be its superstar because you are. And with leadership comes certain responsibility. And if you don't want that responsibility, I understand that. But the way that you behave, this entitlement that you behave, the way that you were talking to your coaches you and Sophie, you enjoy that, right? So if that's what you enjoy, if you want to be the villain, if you want to be the tough person, and I'm not even going to compare you to guys in the NBA, if that's what you two decide to do, or if that's what you specifically, Caitlin, decide to do, then let it be, because we're coming at you just the same way we would come at anybody else. And her fans need to recognize that.
They lose 90-88 last night, 3 of 12 shooting, 5 turnovers, 2 horrendous turnovers late in the fourth quarter. And they treated her like James Harden on the defensive end. They isolated her, went right at her. And what's Burton's first name? I don't know. It's another play. Veronica Burton turned her into a superstar last night, plus several other players. Do we have the clip? I'm sorry. I want to play the clip of, let's play SOT 3 where Kara Lawson pointed this out.
This is something that Golden State tried to do in Indiana as ISO Caitlin. It's something that a lot of teams do, right? One-on-one defensively. If you put her on an island, Williams with the athleticism and takes it right to the rim for a layup. Tiffany Hayes.
That went on all last night. I felt like that was Caitlin Clark's, it's the worst game I can remember her playing in the WNBA. Jon, you fire first. Agree or disagree?
It was catastrophic. I believe early on the referees played a part for getting Caitlin Clark out her game. But as a player, Caitlin got to keep in mind that she is the leader on the basketball team. And if don't nobody else stay focused, you have to stay focused. And unfortunately, last night, Caitlin Clark just failed to do that. She had a very poor shooting night. Just like you stated, those turnovers were catastrophic, especially the last 2 at the end. I feel like Caitlin Clark might need to just, I don't know, like whenever there's heated moments and the referees is doing their little thing, because we all going, like basically we all could see that the referees played a factor in last night's game, but Caitlin Clark has to remain the leader on the floor. And just last night, she kind of did not do that, Jason. It was kind of hard to watch at times. She was airballing threes. The crowd was being loud, and she almost got a dose of her own medicine when it comes to the fan standpoint, because the Golden State Valkyries fans came to be loud and disrupt the Fever last night.
And disrupt Caitlin Clark. That was a real road game. We're used to Caitlin Clark going on the road and a bunch of kids showing up in Caitlin Clark jerseys. That was not the case in Golden State, and they actually booed her 70% of the time she touched the basketball. She was in a real hostile environment. And Maurice, before you get in, I want to play the clip just for context. We've already played it once or earlier in the show of her shouting at the ref early in the first quarter, and then going all the way back to Iowa, her dad shouting at her. These on-court tantrums. And again, I don't think she drew a foul here, and she's yelling and screaming at the ref. And again, from her dad, anybody that cares about her realizes there's an emotional issue with Caitlin Clark. And it makes me, Maurice, I keep saying this over and over again, a tiny bit sympathetic towards Stephanie White and the Fever organization. Your thoughts?
All right, let's get into it, man. The Indiana Fever were absolutely punked last night in that game. Caitlin Clark did not play well, and it reminded me of, I was very critical of Caitlin Clark last year in Golden State. And I'm not going to be critical of Caitlin Clark because she's not making shots. That happens to everybody. I just watched Shai Gilgeous can't throw a rock in the ocean. I've watched Luka Doncic struggle to throw a rock in the ocean. The frustrating part for me with Caitlin Clark is the fact that when she didn't have it going, just like last year in Golden State, she lost her aggressiveness. 12 shots is not enough. I don't care if you 2 for 12, 3 for 12, 12, you have the Washington Mystics game. She was shooting horrible going into the fourth quarter. She didn't lose the aggressiveness, and then she got hot. That is the silver lining. That's where I'm frustrated with her. Defensively, she has to be a little bit better. You got to stay in front of people. But the elephant in the room, the coaching, this team looks ill-prepared. They are gassed in the first quarter. What are y'all doing in practice? You have the Golden State Valkyries just played a game the other night. I mean, what are you doing in practice? I'm looking at the practice clips with hula hooping. People are doing all types of stuff that have nothing to do with basketball, nothing to do with being in shape. Stephanie White has his team ill-prepared, a lack of adjustments. Yes, Caitlin Clark's not a great defender. Why are you switching every ball screen and just allowing people to go one-on-one? The Golden State Valkyries would not allow you to go one-on-one versus Steph Curry all game. We're going to send help. We're going to hedge a screen. We're going to blitz a screen. We know he's not our best defender. We're not going to let you play one-on-one all game. Aaliyah Boston's getting $6 million. It's enough blame to go around for everybody. Aaliyah Boston's getting $6 million, the highest paid player in the league. This is the second time she's been scoreless in a first half. I mean, the whole big three. Kelsey Mitchell was awful. Caitlin Clark was awful in the second half. She was terrible in the second half. The entire big three was bad, and the entire team looked ill-prepared, and that falls on Stephanie White. She was completely outcoached by Natalie Nakase. The same game plan, and I did a film breakdown on it, the same switching and game plan Stephanie White had the first game they won. I said, Golden State's going to make adjustments, and the Indiana Fever better have a counter. They had nothing.
I get it that Aaliyah Boston's making $6 million or over the life of her contract. I get it that Kelsey Mitchell is a first-team All-NBA player, but again, Caitlin Clark is the straw that stirs the drink. She's Reggie Jackson. I'm out there. I'm dating you guys, but Caitlin Clark, the ball is in her hand because we're taking the ball out of Caitlin Clark. They haven't done that this year. And let's remember, if I was going to question anything about Stephanie White last night, it's at the 4-minute mark, I think, of the fourth quarter, they pulled Raven Johnson out of the game, and Raven Johnson was their best player yesterday. She had just hit a three, her 16th point. She was able to defend, and out of not necessity, just out of custom, they put Caitlin Clark back into the game and pulled Raven Johnson. And I wanted Caitlin Clark back in the game, but I would have given it another 60 seconds with Raven Johnson to see what happens. And then I would have gone back to Raven Johnson a little bit quicker than they did. She was their best player. And by that point of the game, it was like, hey, Caitlin is mentally off. There is a mental issue with Caitlin Clark. I think she's admitted it, and I think anybody that's watched her, because her behavior, going back to college all the way through, her behavior and her inability to control her emotions gets the best of her from time to time. I didn't think she was any good in the first half. The examples I showed of like her turning around and yelling at the refs over nothing. It's like, hey, that's when I was like, we got a problem. And then early in the second quarter, she dribbled up court and dribbled straight into traffic. And I was like, this is her forcing things. She's frustrated. Their defense, Golden State's, is really good. And she got frustrated. And so my issue wasn't effort. It's the lack of composure. Caitlin Clark, by year 3, you need to be the smartest player on the Fever. And she's not. That's what frustrates me. Jon, you fire back, and then I'm going to switch up a little bit.
I believe you're absolutely right, Jason. Just like we stated earlier, when you're the leader of the basketball team, you got to remain that leader. And at times in last night, Golden State Valkyrie game, Caitlin Clark was not that leader. She was turning around, yelling at the refs. She was arguing like with her teammates at times. Now, do I believe Caitlin Clark is still the superstar player we all love to root for? Yes, she is. But she's not perfect. No one is. We're humans. And I feel like she definitely need to take a step back, kind of have an out-of-body experience, go back, look at some of her film with her jawing at these referees, and then going back and looking at the way she's shooting, and all of these different things is definitely playing a factor in getting her going. I would have loved to see Caitlin Clark be the Caitlin Clark we like to see, but it's just something about her going to Chase Center that does something mentally to her. And the only explanation I got is the fans. That place is rocking. And I don't know. KTV said something about practice. Like, Caitlin Clark went to a baseball game on this road trip. Like, why would you do that on this road trip? Now, I know they probably had an off day, but if you know that you struggle at Chase Center, I'm doing everything in my power to remain focused at Chase Center and making that my top priority. I'm not going to baseball games, but I'm not here to, you know what I'm saying, nitpick at Caitlin Clark. But I feel as if I definitely seen some things yesterday, Jason.
Maurice, go ahead and follow up.
Jason, I do think that we do have to remember this is still technically a second-year player who's in like the 18th, 17th game in her second season. So I think that we have to take that into consideration. I definitely want to touch on this Cari champion thing. I think it's ridiculous. You know, are we saying, Jason, are we saying that Luka Doncic, who all he does is bark at referees, damn near to the level of Draymond Green, Luka Doncic has been in the realm of being suspended by the league due to the amount of technical fouls. Why is no one saying Luka Doncic has a mental issue?
Oh, I think he does. I think he gets criticized for that, for flopping and for all the extra stuff he does. There's a lot extra to Luka Doncic. When you think about why Dallas was willing to let him go, I think that played into it. That like they reached the point, like, between his weight and his behavior, hey, let's build around something more sustainable, more consistent than Luka Doncic.
I hear, you know, people do say he complains a lot, and the defense is awful. Okay. The weight at times, I guess, is an issue, but I don't hear people questioning his mental stability. I've never heard Cari Champion talk about Angel Reese slapped the clipboard out of a coach's hand. She didn't say a peep. Asia Wilson has gone off on referees at the podium. Kelsey Plum was at the podium in tears going off on referees. I didn't hear her go off about that. Diana Taurasi, league-wide, and I love Diana Taurasi to watch as a kid, was my favorite women's player ever to watch. She's known as a nutcase. I've never heard Cari Champion utter a word. If you think what Caitlin Clark is doing is crazy, she clearly hasn't seen Diana Taurasi. I think that a lot of this was some farming, some engagement farming. I'm gonna be real, Cari Champion. I think you was trying to get some engagement going, and I really don't think you have paid enough attention to go make a statement like that.
Wrong messenger. I agree with you, Cari Champion. She's too inconsistent, ignores all the other stuff. But Caitlin Clark draws so much attention in conversation, even more than Luka Doncic, that it's not surprising. And again, she has stated now at a press conference that she's got some sort of mental hiccup as it comes to her back and those injuries. She's put it on the table. She's a woman. They deal with anxiety issues. And she's so seems to be set up to be affirmed, that she's comfortable when she's being affirmed. And this is where I think Jon and I are on solid ground. That's a real road environment at Golden State. They were booing her every time she got the ball. I don't know if you've ever been booed or ever been, but I have. It will get into your head a little bit. You will. And I couldn't imagine like being a woman and getting booed. That's probably unprecedented in women's basketball and women's sports. No one's cared enough to boo. And they finally have a player that they care enough to boo. And I'm sure it's disconcerting. I mean, when you think of it, men are used to sporting environments where they're getting harassed and booed, tomatoes, canned, whatever, thrown at them, blah, blah, blah. No one's ever cared enough about women's sports to express any animus towards the opposition. I think Kate, she's in a position that's unique and does make me sympathetic, but it is an issue, and I want to juxtapose it. It's like, Maurice, you're saying, hey, she's just in her second year and we need to cut her some slack because she missed last year. Well, I'm going to and again, she doesn't draw the same kind of attention. But I know someone else that's in their second year that when I watch them play, and I watched them last night, Paige Beckers and the Las Vegas Aces. Paige Beckers is not as good a player as Caitlin Clark. But I can put together an argument. She's a smarter player than Caitlin Clark. And the Dallas Wings are a problem. They beat the Aces last night. AZ had 22. Paige had 20. Jessica Shepard had 22. I believe they are now, are they 5-3, I believe now? And they've beaten the Liberty and the Aces back to back. Paige Beckers, and I don't like her. She's not my favorite player. AZ Fudd, the gay couple, the face of the WNBA gay, they got something going on, and they have right now. They're a better team. They beat the Fever, and they're playing better and smarter than the Fever. Maurice, your reaction?
The Dallas Wings are playing really good basketball. I don't believe they're a more talented team than the Indiana Fever, but they are a much better coached team. Point blank, period. Caitlin Clark is better than Paige Beckers. Kelsey Mitchell's better than AZ Fudd. Aaliyah Boston's better than Jessica Shepard. It's not because of the talent. The coaching is so much better in Dallas, as it is a lot of teams. The Indiana Fever are in real trouble. Jason, I came on here and I said it before. I am not being a prisoner of the moment. When the record was 0-0, I told you Kelsey Mitchell should have been off this team. I told you Stephanie White should be fired when the record was 0-0, and they are proving my points exactly why.
Jon?
To KTV point, their coaching is two totally different styles. Stephanie White at times showed it last night. There's many games where they showed that there's different systems that Stephanie tries to run, almost like an experiment. And at this junction, we don't need experiments. We need wins. I'm tired of them having to battle it out with teams at close. We need to get long stretches. They're not getting that. But Stephanie White, she keep doing all these micro things, and I believe it's costing them basketball games. Like at the end of the game, right? They had Aaliyah Boston go down there. Like, she should have called a timeout. Like, you couldn't see the trap down there. And, like, why would you call that? Now, I'm not here to make excuses, not at all, because the Fever did play bad, and Caitlin definitely did. But when you look at this game in totality, Stephanie White has to be held accountable, Jason. At some point in time, there was different looks that it was just horrible. And then, like, the defense, oh, my God, was so bad. I don't know. It just get frustrating at times because there's games that we want to see the Fever just dominate and win in, and we have not been seeing it. As a fan, as someone who want to see Caitlin Clark finally get that championship, I just don't know if Stephanie White is the commander-in-chief of this locker room to give her that trophy.
I'll end here, guys. Listen, I think that Stephanie White can be nitpicked, and I'm not going to defend Stephanie White, but I'm going to be sympathetic. I think Caitlin Clark is a unique experience. And Caitlin Clark stayed at home in Iowa, stayed in a bastion of support in Iowa. And Lisa Bluter and that coaching staff built a 4-year relationship of dealing with Caitlin Clark and getting the best and putting her in a little cocoon of comfort, success, and affirmation. And it's far more difficult to do that in the WNBA than in college basketball. You're in college basketball at Iowa. What do we think? 70% of her games were against teams that had no real chance at beating Iowa. There's only a handful of good teams in women's college basketball. And so these defects that all people have, no one's perfect, I'm not, blah, blah, but they get more exposed in the WNBA because there's more teams that can beat you. There's more high-stress opportunities. At Iowa, let's say they played 12 games a year that were high stress where they had a chance to really lose the game. In the WNBA, she probably plays 40 games like that. 38, something like that. And so there's Caitlin Clark's defects are easier to cover up in college basketball than they are in the WNBA. And then you got these girls that are talented and have an attitude. And because, again, this is where I really tipped my hat to Golden State. They was like, okay, Caitlin Clark talked her talk, and, Tiffany Hayes got into it, and blah, blah, blah. And Golden State took the high road and said, we're not going to start no BS with Caitlin Clark. We're just going to take her down to the defensive end of the court and torture her. That's how we're going to get our get back. We're going to isolate her and treat her like James Harden, and we'll see if she'll mentally fold. Because the book is out. Everybody watches the same games. They see the same clips. This woman will argue and fuss and fight with the refs. She'll argue and fuss and fight with her coaches. She'll argue and fuss and fight with anybody. The book is out. Hey, let's beat Caitlin Clark between the ears. We can't beat her out here. She can hit those logo threes. She's a great passer. We can't beat her on the court. We can beat her between the ears. That's what I think Golden State's game plan was, and I think other teams are going to say that and adopt that strategy. Hey, we don't have to be super physical with her. Let's just take her down here and put her in a little ISO torture chamber and see, somebody get hot. Veronica Burton. I know Dejanay Carrington just can't wait. Kennedy Carter, can't wait. Let's go down here and make her guard me, and that's how we're going to get together. I'm not going to claw her in the eyes. I'm not going to hit her to the ground. I'm going to put her in an ISO torture chamber and see if she can survive, and maybe she can't. Maurice?
But the thing is, and it was a hell of a game from Veronica Burton. She played her tail off last night. And Golden State, that is the number one defensive team in the league, by the way. So that's not just any defensive unit. That's the best defensive team in the league. But I'll say they did nothing on offense that we have not watched done to Caitlin Clark throughout her entire career. The difference is, and we weren't big fans of Christy Sides, by the way. I'd love to have her back over Stephanie White, please. Yeah, but whatever. So the difference was Christy Sides wouldn't allow you to pick on Caitlin Clark in one-on-one situations all game. Jason, I got clips. I got a video coming. 8, 9, 10 dribbles with no help defender. If we play one-on-one and you allow someone to dribble 9 to 10 times before they have to shoot, they are probably going to score, which is why people play one-on-one 3 dribbles max. You let Veronica Burton, and this is not just on Caitlin Clark. This is on Monique Billings. This is on everybody. The girl is dribbling 8 to 10 times with no help defender. Any scoring guard is going to score. My thing to you, Jason, is this. When we were watching Caitlin Clark in her rookie season go against the Dallas Wings and have 20 points and 19 assists, we was watching her have 30 points and 13 assists versus Chicago, all while being attacked defensively, all while being flagrant foul, all of that, all while the mental games of, hey, we're going to post her up. We're going to put her in one-on-one situations on defense. All those things that happened last night have been going on since day one. What's the one thing that changed, Jason? The coach. The coach. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. You don't allow people, you don't put players, you put players in a position to succeed. You put them in a position to showcase their strengths and to hide their weaknesses. It's just, it's coaching malpractice.
I think you make a great point. The only thing I'll say, the difference might be, you remember, you watch football, NFL. Remember how good Carson Wentz looked before the book came out on him? And then the book came out after his rookie year, and he never looked the same. And sometimes it takes a year, and then people, they get in the lab and they study everything and they start saying, hey, this is what we'll do. This is what she likes to do. This is what we'll do. The book is out. And now we'll have to see if Caitlin has a counter, whether the coach has a counter, whether those two together can collaborate on a counter. But the one thing is like Caitlin Clark, because I think what Stephanie White is saying, and you know how reluctant I am to defend Stephanie White. She's on the Alphabet Mafia team. It's not my, but the one difference is that Stephanie White is like unsure because of Caitlin Clark's anxiety issues, emotional control issues, and I'm just trying to be fair and consistent because these emotional control. If this is a white fatigue video we're watching from Caitlin Clark, and I got no problem calling out the black fatigue. Oh, you got no self-control. I have no problem calling it out. When I see it from black people and black athletes, I got no problem calling out when I see it from Caitlin Clark. There's a fatigue issue that her daddy has. Shut up. When they capture your daddy on TV telling you to shut up, he ain't doing that because that's the first time he's seen it. He's fatigued. Yeah. And so I got to go. Jon, if you got something you can say in 15, 20 seconds, say it.
Yeah. I feel like the only person that could beat Caitlin is Caitlin. And at this point, what Natalie and the Golden State Valkyries did was exposed. The best way to beat Caitlin is just let her beat herself. That's why I feel like Caitlin got to get in the lab and get this mental health together, Jason.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great job. Eric Schmitt, the senator out of Missouri, is next to talk about the bill that he and Ted Cruz are trying to get passed in Congress to save college sports. Next. Chet Holmgren or Harvardstein, I can't remember, but it clearly went off an OKC player's foot. Mitch Johnson, the coach of the Spurs, is clearly asking for a replay review and a timeout. And they're, nah, we're just not giving it to you. We got somewhere to be. Huh? I'm not some crazy every game is rigged conspiracy theorist, but you can't tell me that game last night was on the up and up.
Where's the foul, man? There is none. Oh. Okay. There is none. Play on. Oh, man, that's so close. Wow. No doubt. Hey, it was close, Jim.
Off of Hartenstein right there. Russo threw the hands back and he knew he couldn't get it. He was going to take.
That was amazing. That was a debacle. That's why it's hard for people to buy into the NBA. There have been some great nights here for Wembanyama and the NBA playoffs, but and I know everyone's all fired. The New York Knicks, and New York's going to be in the NBA Finals.
Next up, Finals! We smoking on the pen. Bounce up! Bounce up! They're
But if we win the finals, we burning the city down!
Words are obligation, no regrets in our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
Welcome back, and as promised, Senator Eric Schmitt rejoins the program because there is news on a bill that's being framed as the last best hope to save college sports. Eric was on the show probably a month ago talking about him and Senator Cantwell, and now it seems like Senator Ted Cruz is a part of this. Eric, give us the update. The bill was introduced on Wednesday, and it's being framed as our last best hope to save college sports. Why is that?
I don't know how much longer down the road we can go where you have just sort of the Wild West. And the reason why is that you've had this litigation over the last 10 years or so that's effectively made the NCAA or any governing body, any rules unenforceable. You just go to court. If you're trying to get that 7th year of eligibility or a return from a G League, you get to do it. And so I was probably skeptical, as I talked about last time, of the government getting involved here. But the truth of the matter is Congress is the only entity on the planet that can grant antitrust exemption to the NCAA or another governing body to make the rules that they could stick in that lawsuit protection if they're sued. And so this is the first bill now. It's bipartisan. Senator Cruz, myself, Senator Cantwell, and Chris Coons from Delaware that put the two buckets together, the governance piece and the revenue piece, right? So on the governance side, it establishes some rules, 5 years of eligibility, one-time transfer, protections for student athletes, making sure they're represented in the process on all these boards and making sure they have the health care that they need. And then on the second piece, providing an option now for them to pool their media rights. This is what I worked on with Senator Cantwell, we talked about before, for the conferences to pool their media rights to potentially have more leverage with the rights holders to get more dollars. And that can help protect women's sports and Olympic sports, because the reality here, the 30,000-foot view is college football has always subsidized as the cash cow all the other non-revenue sports, and almost all of them except for basketball are non-revenue sports. And when you start losing money in your college football program, that's just not going to happen anymore. And I think the canary in the coal mine was about a month ago, Arkansas, an SEC school, announced they're not going to have men's and women's tennis anymore. That is just going to kind of exacerbate and continue here over the coming years. So this would provide, I think, the relief that college sports need to survive and thrive and generate more revenue to protect those sports.
How likely is this bill to pass?
That's the $64,000 question, or the multi-billion-dollar question, I guess. I'm hopeful. It's like I said, it's the first time now you have a bipartisan effort here that's real. And the game, I think, has always been in the Senate where you need 60 votes to pass something, right? And so this is going to move quickly. June will be a very important month for all of this. I would expect a hearing next week in the Commerce Committee. I'm on that committee. Senator Cruz chairs that committee. Senator Cantwell is the ranking member on that committee. Senator Coons is on that committee. So I would expect a hearing quickly and then potentially vote it out of committee relatively quickly and give us a chance to get it on the floor and then over to the House. As you know, Jason, the House had kind of the SCORE Act, which was just the governance piece. I and Senator Cantwell have had, just the revenue piece. So this is kind of the first time they're together. People are going to have opinions about it. That's fine. That's part of the process. But I just think if we're talking about this, if you and I are doing this show 2 years from now talking about it, the landscape is just dramatically different, and it won't be for the better.
If you could you play devil's advocate, or why would someone be against this?
I don't think there's much disagreement about the need for enforceable rules. I mean, you might want to haggle about should it be, 4 years of eligibility versus 5. Should it start at 19 or when you graduate from high, those sorts of things. The transfer, can you transfer twice, or when a coach leaves? I mean, I think you could have a reasonable debate about that. On the revenue side, some of the conferences look, I'll just take the SEC and the Big Ten, for example. They've done a great job building their brands. I mean, I as you can see here, I love Mizzou. I love the SEC. I think it's a phenomenal conference. It's what I watch on Saturdays mostly. And so do, by the way, about 40% of all the people who watch college football. I don't think they should be forced into a pooling situation at all. And in previous iterations of this contemplated that everybody would have to negotiate together. And then there was some concern, do you dilute the brand and what they've built? This doesn't do that. Like, this says it's totally voluntary. Before the SEC or the Big Ten would pool with any other conference for media rights, they would get to negotiate what that looks like on the front end. So I think everybody's protected here. And I'll just leave you with one number on this point. The NBA has half the audience of college football, twice the revenue, $8 billion all in. College football's $4 billion all in. And so they're just not maximizing the potential. Now, you could argue, if they did it, would it be $8 billion or $10 billion or $12 billion or $7 billion? I don't really know, but I know it's more than $4 billion, and that's a lot of money to protect the sports that are going to be undercut if we don't do something here.
So when there's a concerted push like you guys are doing, hey, we got the bill proposed in Wednesday, and we're I saw Pat Forty, influential sports writer for Sports Illustrated, writing about this. What can we do, my audience, people concerned about college sports? What are you hoping to provoke from us? Call our senators, or is it that type of situation, or you just want the news out there?
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that, a lot of senators, who haven't been part of the negotiations or dive into this like I have, or a few others, there's going to be a lot of education that happens in the next couple of weeks, because the issue now is being forced. There's a lot of things going on in Washington. But what I think is kind of interesting about this, not only just me being a fan and having played in a previous life, this is culturally relevant to a huge swath of people in this country. Sports are one of the few things we have left that really bring us together. So I don't view this as partisan at all. I think this cuts the fabric of what it, sort of what it is to be an American. I mean, we root for teams, we come together, we go to stadiums, we watch on TV, all these things that bring us together, and all of that's at risk. And so I think your audience, getting educated on it, maybe they already know everything there is to know about it, but reaching out saying, hey, this is important to me. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, or I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, whatever that is, we got to do something here. And like I said, Congress is the only entity that can grant that antitrust exemption for there to be a fix here.
Eric, thank you for making the time. I appreciate it. We'll wish you guys good luck. We'll continue to follow this. Love to have you back.
Thanks, Jason. Take care.
All right. That's Eric Schmitt, senator from Missouri, the great state of Missouri, the show me state. All right. That's going to be it and all from us here on Fearless. I do want you to turn over to the Harmony channel here in about 3 minutes. I'm going to be joined by Gabrielle Clark, black woman, mother, had a daughter that in middle school was all in on the transgender cult. And she's going to unpack and explain to us how her daughter, still her daughter, high school graduate, bunch of scholarship money, life is right on course. Gabrielle's going to explain how she got her daughter out of the transgender cult, back on track. It's an inspiring story. It's a story that a lot of parents need to hear, a lot of people need to hear. We'll unpack that on the Harmony channel. Well, that's it, and that's all for us this week here on Fearless. Come join me on the Harmony channel in 2 minutes.